Hello YouTube, Mike at Carbonite Lab back again with another video. Still talking about my Eldar. This is Fire Dragons, if you haven't figured it out already. No mistaking that orange armor with the yellow helmet. Everybody sees those. Everybody knows exactly who they are. I've had these guys for a long time, much like some of my other models. These are, again, the older out-of-print metal models. Collected these, again, over a couple of years. A couple here, a couple there. I think I picked these up in squads of 5. I actually have enough to make 2 full squads of 6. So that would be a total of 12. So I have 2 Exarchs and then the remaining just Fire Dragons. I painted these up in just a squad of 6. In 5th edition I ran these guys a lot in a Falcon, so I would just run them in 6th, in a squad of 6 I should say, and that's really all that you need. You can run a full squad of these guys, but it's really just overkill, kind of a waste of points. So as far as the painting, again, sticking with the Codex color scheme, a Fire Dragon. I love the color scheme because I think it's probably one of the few color schemes that the Eldar has that the color scheme itself lends to the name of the aspect warrior. Fire Dragon looks like it's on fire. So that's what I did with the armor. I amped up the yellow highlights on the orange armor a little bit more than what the Codex pictures show. I wanted to show and represent that that their armor itself is more of a like a heated flame color. The camera may not pick it up here, but when I painted these, I actually wanted the model to be a little bit more of a darker color at the bottom, and then ending in the bright helmet at the top to look more like a true flame. Flames are usually darker at the bottom, and at their brightest point at the top. At least from what I know, and I wanted that look in the models. So when I painted these, and after I had all the colors down, I used a couple layers of a darker red wash down below, ending just at the kneecap, and then went to a little bit lighter one up to the waist, and then a little bit less up at the top, and ending in with no red wash above the shoulder pads. And I think I even threw a little bit of a darker brown wash in around the bottom to kind of darken it down a little bit, so that way it gave a gradient down towards their feet where it was darker. When I did the squad, I decided I didn't use the airbrush at all. Painted it all with a regular just paintbrush. So it was my first real attempt at trying to blend the yellow into the orange with some red. And it came out okay. I look back on it now, and as is with all models that you paint and you grow after time, and you look back at models that you painted a while back and you think, wow, I could do that a little bit differently now, or if I could do it again, I would do it this way. These ones still, you know, they work for me. I like the look of them when they're on the tabletop, especially when you're, you know, standing above them, looking down on them. The color really does kind of have that like glowing, fiery look to it. I originally had these in my Beltan Warhost, and I represented that with the green sashes that are coming off their belts right there. Dropped in a little, you know, white and some markings on the Exarch or whatnot, just to kind of give it a little bit more color. But that's what the green really was for the representation of the Warhost it was in. Now, with my other Fire Dragons that I have that I could paint up, I would just probably paint the sash a different color, so that way I could have different squads. Looking at these, I need to go back and repaint the edges of the base themselves the brown color so it matches the rest of the Warhost. I painted these so long ago that I since then have changed the base color as far as like the bottom of the base to a light brown as opposed to the black. And on this one I actually experimented with a little bit of a wash on the gravel. You can see there's a difference between the others, and I think I like that wash on the gravel there, so I'll probably go back and redo the other bases so that way they match. So I guess somewhat finished, but somewhat unfinished, as with most of my stuff. The gemstones, I did paint a few of them. The Exarch's got his. I didn't go crazy with them. There's a lot of blisters on these guys, but I didn't want to paint all of them as gemstones because I like the blistering look, and to be quite honest, the helm itself has enough gemstones on it to support the rest of the body. So it isn't necessary to go through and pick out every little blister and paint it up as a gemstone. The Eldar Codex model, the fire pike itself has that like nice cool yellow like hot rod flame thing coming down. I tried to do that. Again, this was going back a couple years, and I found that it's actually kind of hard to do on this weapon, at least, because it's a round cylinder and you're painting curvy lines down it, and the brush tends to fall off to one side or the other, and it starts messing with it. Again, if I were to do this squad again today, I'd probably do a few things different, and I'd probably come out with a little better result, but you know what, there's still a great tabletop look, and I'm okay with it. You know, back in 5th edition, I ran these guys every single time I put my Eldar Warhost on the table because they were so good at taking out vehicles. 6th edition, we don't see a lot of vehicles, so these guys, they don't really get a lot of use from my point of view, at least in my gaming circles. Although they still have their uses. Their problem always has been getting them to their target to take out, because they're only a 12-inch ranged melt-a-gun, essentially, fusion gun as the Eldar call it. So they need to be in a transport to get them where you need to go. Typically, once they got out of their transport and they laid down their shots, if they weren't assaulting something with their melt-a-bombs afterwards, they would be kind of left out in the open after they slagged the tank that they just shot at, and then next turn they would get taken out. They do have a 3-up armor save. One of the few aspect warriors that has a 3-up armor save, but it doesn't mean that they're going to survive forever. So these guys were typically kind of like your suicide mission guys. At least that's how we ran them back in 5th. Put them in the Falcon, zoom them up the field, aim for a Land Raider, slag the Land Raider, and if you had to, if you weren't able to take it out with 6 fusion gun shots at 12 inches, then you could always assault it with the melt-a-bombs. Either way, whatever tank you were targeting was going to be taken out of the game once the fire dragons got within 12 inches. The problem was that after they took out that tank, then they would always get shot at and be left to just, you know, flounder around the battlefield until they got back in their transport, if they were lucky enough to do so. There was one in particular game, though, where these guys took out a Lehman Russ, and then they were assaulted by a squad of guard, and believe it or not, the fire dragons lasted the entire game stuck in combat with a squad of Imperial Guard down to the Exarch. And I think the Exarch was left standing, as a matter of fact, at the end of that combat. If I'm not mistaken, that was a while ago. Coincidentally, that was also the same game that my Farseer got blown off the table first turn by an Alpha Strike from a Manticore. That was a horrible, horrible event, and I don't want to relive that one. But the Fire Dragon, he stuck around. He did his job. So, not much of a suicide mission that time. They actually stuck around and tied up some units in combat. Here I am rambling. So let me rotate some of these guys around so you can take a look at it. I've always kind of thought this model was cool. I like that he's got the melt-a-bomb in his hand. He's getting ready to toss it like he's looking for a target to acquire. He's getting ready to just hoof that thing. Although I never did like how the melt-a-gun is just kind of he's able to hold it at the end of it there. Maybe it's just, you know, leaning against his hip or so. But I can imagine him just tossing this thing and it just like magnetically sticking to the side of a Land Raider, and then the thing goes down. There's a shot of their rear ends. Again, just bringing out the highlights so that way it has that glowing red look. Their helms were lots of fun to paint. Yellow is kind of a pain in the ass color to paint, especially with a brush. A lot easier with an airbrush. But all the gemstones on these guys, let's see if we can get some focus. Bring it up close. All the gemstones were painted as well. Got their decal on there. This decal was again, like the other ones I talked about. You know, it's a solid decal. The newer decals, and I had to trim it down with relief so it fit the shape of the helm itself, and then again went over it with some art coat to take away that the edge of the decal. Let's bring the Exarch in close here. Get some focus. There he is. Oh, his gemstones. He's got his one melt-a-bomb there. It's funny, gosh, I look at these things now and think, man, what was I thinking when I painted that stroke? Some of the paint strokes you just look at and go, man, I must have been tired when I did that one. Let's get this guy up here. There's a fire dragon. You know, look at that casting. You can see it up close there. The helm's kind of got like a weird shape to it. You know, it's imperfect. It's not consistent. It's not perfectly symmetrical. But paint it up, put it on the tabletop. It does the job. So I hope you guys